Hi, and a very warm welcome from me, Phil Parker, and my friend Helen. Say hi, Helen.
Hello there.
We're part of the London Lightning Presses team. I'm Phil Parker, the designer of the Lightning Presses, and we're doing these podcasts to try and explain some bits and pieces that people said, "Oh, can you explain this?" And today we're continuing with our adventure into frequently asked questions about the Lightning Presses. We did one last week, me and Jackie, who also works on the team. We've got a whole range of other questions that we thought might be really useful to answer, because these are things that people often answer, and sometimes they think, oh, there probably isn't an answer, and don't go any further with the Lightning Process. But actually, most things can be answered about the Lightning Process, so we're going to try and answer a few of them today. These are the ones we've got on our little list. Hopefully we'll cover them all. One question was about how can I do the Lightning Process if I'm tired? How can I concentrate? Another one was about what do you do if a parent or a partner or somebody really thinks the Lightning Process would be great, but that person really doesn't want to do it? What do you do then? So we'll look at that. What if you think you're not ill enough to get value from the Lightning Process, or sometimes you think you're too ill to get value from the Lightning Process? Something you were saying, Helen, about somebody put off the Lightning Process for 2 years because they thought it was too good to be true. And finally, a question that Helen says that she's often asked is, why is the Lightning Process called the Lightning Process? Does it involve electricity? That sounds very scary, all those kind of things. So we're going to try and cover all that. So, what do you want to start with, Helen, out of that lot? Do you want to do the tiring one? I'm too tired. How am I going to concentrate on a seminar?
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive issue for most of our clients because fatigue is one of the main things that we see. Probably 60 to 70% of our clients have some sort of fatigue issue. And what we would say is that once you come along to the training, it's about really engaging you with the training. It's interactive. You don't just sit there and be spoken to or at. And it's about making sure that you go on that journey. And by the end of day one, you can already start to affect your energy. So it is a massive concern, but we say that it's something that people really are, it's not a problem by the time they do the training.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I just did a seminar this last week. A couple of people with chronic fatigue were there, and of course that was their concern. How on earth am I going to concentrate? But as we say, I would say not even at the end of day one, but within about 5 minutes of starting the seminar, they're like, "Oh, this is," because it's so fascinating and so, "Oh, this is what's going on in my life." It starts to explain things very rapidly as to why you got to be where you are, and that if you've been searching for answers for a long time, is really engaging. The other thing that somebody said to me was they were listening to the audio part one of the Lightning Process, and they said, "Phil, you said in the this was at the end of the seminar. They said you said in the audio program that it's a bit like attending the Lightning Process is a little bit like attending a stand-up comedy gig." And she was saying that can't be right. It can't. You can't. It couldn't be right, but she said it was. It was really, it was really funny, and it was really fascinating and really interesting, and there was as much laughter as there was people going, oh. Because there's lots of research that suggests the way we learn best. And if anyone's ever been to school, you'll know this. We learn best when something's engaging and interesting and grabs our attention. When it's boring and dull and serious, that's when we tend to drift off and look at the window, and that's when you're going to lose your concentration. So our job, both in the designing of the process and the delivering of it, is to make sure it's really, really interesting so we can capture your attention and keep you interested in the conversation, which of course stimulates different parts of your brain, different parts of your neurology. So it's all part of the design of the Lightning Process to make sure that anybody, and we've seen people from, I think the youngest is about 4 with chronic fatigue, to people who are 90, that anybody of any educational standard or any cognitive ability, if they can watch TV and understand what's going on TV, they'll be fine with this. The first thing we'd say is, don't worry, it's fine. Everybody goes through that conversation like, how on earth will I concentrate for more than 10 minutes? And time flies by. People at the end of the first day, they're like, oh, is that the time? Which is what you want, isn't it? Like when you watch a great film, you don't want to be going, oh, is it nearly finished yet? That tells you it's not a great film. You want something that just carries you along, and it really does. Yeah.
So
Anything you'd add to that?
say the camaraderie, we work in a lot of groups, and that helps the stimulation as well. You've got this real group dynamic, which is really supportive but very engaging as well.
Yeah, I think on the last podcast we talked about this group thing, and I think I said this, and again somebody said it on the seminar last week. It was like if somebody said to me, "Hey, let's go do group training," I'd be like, "Oh God, that sounds horrific." Like sitting around with people. I don't know what you got to share your deepest fears. Oh no, but it's not like that. It's actually about having a really interesting conversation, like a chat. Like how can we move through this? It's not about revealing your soul or digging deep into your subconscious. All that stuff is not what it's about. It's not that kind of group. It's actually people learning at the same time, like in a classroom. That's what it's like, but much more interactive than that. But a fun classroom. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Next question, a really interesting question, which I get asked a lot, which is this whole thing about somebody saying, I really think my daughter really should do the lightning process, but every time I mention it or gently, casually nudge the book in their direction, it's like they've been burnt by fire. They run away. They're not interested. And what do you do? So I've got some answers, but what's your answer, Helen? What do you say?
Well, we get asked that a lot as well because we do a free talk every month and we invite anyone that wants to come along to it. And we quite often get friends and family that come along saying, I want to find out for somebody. What we would say is, one, that person has to want to do this training, first and foremost. They have to want to do it. And trying to bully them into it or nag them into it really, really is not going to work. So what we suggest is that you give them opportunities to find out about it in ways that are useful to them. So things like coming along to the talk. There's loads of podcasts that we've produced with Phil's done his own, that are free, that people can download to just get an idea of what we're about, who we are, the type of things that we do. And it's about starting to engage them so that they start to be intrigued by what it does and what the possibilities are, and then they can start to find out a bit more, maybe do the download, come along to a talk, speak to a practitioner. But it's about starting to introduce them to the possibilities and some client stories, things like that, and then helping them and giving them a route to find out the information, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a tough question. I mean, when people ask me that, I'm like, well, all the normal things you would do, like, trying to encourage them and come on, are probably going to dig them into a deeper hole of resistance and go, I'm not doing it. And it's about bringing the conversation to them, but not in a way that's shoving it down their face, because they just won't take it, and then they'll just get even more anti it. And it's a strange thing, because when you do the lightning process, all the things that would put people off, or their thoughts about why they don't want to do it, don't exist. The lightning process is really fun. It's really interesting. It's really effective. People love it. People who do the lightning process go, "That was the best thing I've ever done. It was really just extraordinary." So we did a survey of 1,200 people. 2 of 1,200 people said they didn't like it. 2 of 1,200 people. I mean, you get any film, any bit of music, any book, and you get 1,200 people to engage with it, you'll get more than 2 people not going, I don't like that. So it really seems to fit most people's experience. And yet what puts people off, if you can find out what's stopping them, they're not, the reasons for not doing the lightning process are not relevant. They'll go, it's going to be hard. It's not hard. It's going to be long. Well, it is long, but it's engaging, so it doesn't feel long. It's going to be, I don't know, it won't work. Well, actually, most of the time it does work. It'll be complicated. It's not complicated. It will be, crazy hippie nonsense. It's not, I don't know. Those are the common things that put people off. Oh, it wouldn't work for me. It's not my kind of thing. Well, until you've tried it, you don't know. And it really does match people's experience. It's based on good science. It's very rational, but it's also very engaging. So it's tough, and basically I say to people is that often it's a question of time. Giving it enough time. We hear stories all the time. People saying, "I heard about this." I mean, there was a guy I saw at the weekend. He said, he did a nice little video. It's probably going up on Facebook this week. He said, I had again chronic fatigue. I think for 3 years. The first year I heard about the lightning process, dismissed it out of hand. Finally, I did the lightning process. He was like, don't do what I did. Just do it. When you hear about it, just do it. not everybody's going to listen to that, obviously, but yeah, there's a time when whatever it is needs to happen for it to make sense. And for many people, they move from going, I don't think I'll do that, to I'm going to do it. I do find it fascinating that people kind of go, I don't think I'll take that, I don't think I'll do that, that seems, whatever it is, risky, difficult, unusual. Well, hopefully that will change over time, that this will become something that people just go, oh, of course you do, that's what you, if you've got ME, if you've got anxiety, you've got depression, of course you do the lightning process. But we're not there yet. And again, talking to most of the people who did videos at the weekend and people on the course this week, pretty much all of them said, I did the lightning process. And why do you think they did it? What was the final thing that pushed them to do it? It was because they met someone, somebody they trusted who went, I did it, it really worked, go and do it. And those are the things that most shift even the people who are the most stuck. Somebody says something, they may have heard it 100 times from their mum or the dad or the best friend or their partner, but somebody else says something and somehow that switches their perception, and the moment has to be right and all those kind of things. And that sounds very passive, but that is kind of the way it is. There's a time for these things, and if you go before, or you get pushed into it before you're ready, I would say to people, if you feel someone's pushing you into doing the lightning process, don't do the lightning process, because that's not a good place to come from. It's a bit like if somebody says, go and learn to drive, and you go, I don't want to. It's going to be really tough to learn to drive if you really don't want to. You want to get to a point where you've got a boyfriend who lives too far away, and you have to get in a car and you go, right, I want to learn to drive, or you want to go to university, and then you want to do it, then you'll do it, and then it's much, much more doable. That was a very long answer, but it is a really, I think, a really important question, and I do feel from parents who've got kids, teenagers, who go, I want them to do it, and you can't force them, and it's a really tough position to be in, where you kind of have a sense, or someone who's done the lightning process, and you think it would be really good for your kid, but if they're not ready, it wouldn't be good for your kid. So don't force the issue if they're not ready, and that's probably the best advice really, is to, as you say, supply information gently, but don't push.
But interestingly, we've also had clients that have done the process, got amazing results, and then wanted members of their family to go on and do it. And we've had resistance there as well, haven't we? Where it's taken maybe a year or something before a partner or before a sibling or someone will go on and do it. So, like Phil said, that person's really got to want to do it. They've really got to be ready.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, messages from inside the family, and it's like my kids, if I try and coach my kids, I'm a great coach, rubbish coach for my kids, because they don't want to be coached by me. If I go, do you want some help with, doing well at exams? I'm like, no. Well, at that point, my job is not to coach them. I could find somebody else who can, but, it's also creating that relationship that works. It's so important for anything that you do, but particularly something like this. Okay, next one up, I've got what if I'm not ill enough, or if I'm too ill? I think I'm too ill to do the process, or I think I'm not ill enough. What are your thoughts on that?
I think again it comes down to it being the right time for you to do it, as opposed to how ill or not ill you are, or you perceive you are. Some of our clients have done the process when they've not been able to even function or get out of bed, and have got amazing results. Other clients function and do it because of their interest, and actually that's my background. I trained as a practitioner because of my interest in personal development, and when I learned the lightning process, it was out of interest, and it was about helping my life and assisting it. So I think it's more about that it's something that resonates with you. You see the benefit of how you can influence your health and life, and it can either be something that can really get you out of a bad place, or something that can assist your life brilliantly.
Yeah, and again, through the history of the lightning process, we have seen people of all shapes and forms of various illnesses. ME, of course, is one of the classic ones that we see: chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, all those things. Multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, a whole range of stuff. And the question is not, am I too serious, too ill, or not ill enough? The question is, well, let's see. Let's use these tools. You can be certain if you've got an issue that we've seen before. We've probably seen people, if you're here, we've seen people who are worse and people who are better and people who are the same. And the results across the board are very, very similar. It doesn't seem, it's kind of strange that often we would imagine if you have a serious illness or a more severe illness than somebody else, it's going to be more difficult to get well off. But if we look at stuff like, let's say you've got, you've had a brain hemorrhage because you hit your head against the windscreen of a car in a car accident. That's a really serious thing. However, if you go into the A&E and they spot that and they relieve the pressure, you'll be fine. Or if you have a raging double pneumonia, like I think Hillary Clinton's recently had, if you take the right antibiotics, that will go like that. It doesn't make it not a serious thing. If it's just like, if you have the right tool, then you can make change. So the same thing here. We do see people with a whole range of severity, from very severe to people who are still in employment. So the process seems to help for all these people, because what's the same with everybody is we're looking at how can you trigger your internal healing mechanism, how can you get the way your brain affects your neurology to be more effective. And that's true of any illness. If we can improve any of that, we will get some kind of change. Cool. Okay, too good to be true. Tell us about this person you were talking to. Who said that?
I think it was one of our team talks, actually, because I say we just have people come in every month to meet us and ask questions. And we had someone that had put off investigating it because it just seemed too good to be true, that he could not get his head around the fact that there was a possibility that somebody could get their health back in a few days or a few weeks. It was just unheard of. So, and that had given him a barrier. That stopped him actually even investigating it, because the shutters came down and he just went, no, that's not real. I can't do that. So, but it's not the first time we've heard that. It's come up quite a few times.
Well, I think if you go back 100 years ago, and you go, oh look, we can look inside people's bodies with this machine. People go, oh you're nuts, you can't do that, because 100 years ago you couldn't do that. X-rays were probably just about coming out. You couldn't do MRI scans. You couldn't do keyhole surgery. You didn't antibiotics had only just been invented. If you go back a little bit further, you don't have to go too much further in history of medicine. Antiseptic medicine hadn't been invented, where people died all the time. So there's a classic case of these women who kept on dying after birth, and nobody could work out why it was. And I think he was a Hungarian, but certainly Eastern European guy, thought, I wonder if it's because all the doctors do dissection on the dead people and then deliver the babies afterwards without washing their hands. So he started washing his hands and found that less people died. And he presented this idea, and they went, "You're a nutter. You're mad. How could that possibly work? Well, what is the mechanism of that? Show me where the bad vibes or the miasms or whatever it is transfer across your hands. You're crazy." And now, of course, we look at it and go, "Oh, yeah, it makes perfect sense with the knowledge that we have." And that's what we're looking at with the lightning process. It's a very powerful tool. The research has still not been done that confirms everything we've seen, and that's the problem we have. We sit in a place where day after day we see people obviously changing as a result of taking the lightning process. But that's you and me talking, and people go, well, of course Phil's going to say that, of course Helen's going to say that. But it's true, that's what we see, 9,000 people in the last 5 years, and so on and so forth. But that, we're in a privileged position where we see that. If you're sitting on the outside, you might think, oh, is that really true? Where's the evidence? And that's why other people's testimonies is so powerful. But yeah, you can make change quickly. In one of the books I wrote, which one was it? I think it might be Get the Life You Love. One of the questions is, it's too good to be true as a concept. It's like, well, what's the opposite of that? It's so average, it must be right. I mean, that's not really a motto for life, is it? As long as it's not too exceptional, we'll accept it. Come on. It's like, and the other thing people often say about the lightning process, the question they have is, can it really work for all those different conditions? Can you, and they're coming from this model where you take one pill for this and one pill for that. But I always think about, an iPhone, most people barely use their iPhones to make phone calls anymore. But, luckily our iPhone does about 20 different things. It tells me the times of the train. I can Skype I can, convert currency when I go abroad. I can go on Twitter. Thank God I don't have 17 different devices for each of those things. I'd have a bag, of different things. Isn't it good that one thing does one thing? And the lightning process is the same. It is really good at a range of stuff. Not everything. You can't build a house, you can't fix your car, but it is good at looking at how the mind and body and the brain and body interact and helping that to be better. That's what it does. And because our brain influences so much of our neurological and physical function, it can therefore be appropriate for many things. So we should be celebrating. It was one of the problems we had when we first got the results that we got from our studies. We got really good results. We told people about it, and their first response was this: well, that can't be right. Well, we're the experts. We can't get anything near that, so you must be wrong. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Just because nobody's got these results yet doesn't mean to say that that's as good as we'll ever get. Why shouldn't we be looking at what could really make a difference rather than what can make a difference for a small percentage of people? So yeah, I get where people are coming from. We're taught to not trust things. Anything that's too good to be true probably isn't. But then we also have the chance of forgetting that some things are really good. Some things are really effective. You don't take again antibiotics, take them for pneumonia, they get rid of it. You don't go, that's too good to be true. You go, fantastic, I haven't got pneumonia anymore. It's just a really I find it a very interesting position to come from. And I'm, interestingly, I'm quite sceptical. If somebody tells me, do this, it will fix you, I want to go, okay, well, tell me a bit more about that. I don't rush in and go, oh yeah, okay, fine, let's all drink our own urine or whatever the latest thing is. Which is something that someone was talking to me about yesterday. It's like, no thanks, I think I'd like to find a bit more information about that. But at the same time, that's not what we're looking at with the lightning process. We've got loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of people over the last nearly 20 years getting change. So, yeah. But it's up to you to look into that and decide whether you think that's true or not. But our experience is, and I think the test for me is, if one of my kids had any of the illnesses or issues that we work with, it's the first thing I'd send them to. Not because it's my thing, but because I think it's really effective. And I wouldn't send them to the lightning process for everything. If they wanted, if for instance they had a phobia, I'd send them to probably NLP or EFT because it's quicker than the lightning process. The lightning process is overkill for that. If they had, wanted to learn how to drive, I'd send them to get driving lessons. It might be useful to do some, work on getting ready to learn, but I wouldn't do it on its own. If they broke a leg, I'd send them to an A&E. But for the things that we work with, the lightning process is really useful. So, final question.
Okay.
Why is the lightning process, Helen, called the lightning process?
Well, you named it.
What's your answer when people ask you?
What's my answer is, usually I suggest that it might not have the same name if you were to name it today. You originally developed it some, 16 years ago. And also, this might be completely wrong, but my understanding was it's because it's fast, or it can be fast, and because it's enlightening. And it was a name that you came up with that you felt fitted at the time. But over to you.
Yeah, so it took me a long time to come up with the name. I couldn't really find out. Originally it was called the self-coaching strategy, because an element of the lightning process is coaching yourself. But that didn't really. That sounded just like a coaching thing, and it's so much more than that. It's really quite a phenomenal thing in my opinion. So yeah, the reason I came up with lightning was because it is very fast. Learning the tools are very fast, and many people get very very fast change. Although not all, but you can master the tools very quickly. It's also enlightening. It makes you see things that in the world quite differently. When people do the lightning process, they just move around the world and see things in a different way. It makes life easier, and it's also lightening, and it lightens your load. It makes it less trouble for you to have to deal with. There's another story about it which you can read in one of my books about. Turns out that the very first osteopath, a guy called Andrew Taylor Still, also used to call himself a lightning bone setter. Which I'd forgot about until I was writing a book about 10 years after having named it. I was like, oh. So maybe there was some unconscious nudge from something I learned a long time ago at osteopathy school. Would I name it the lightning process again today? I don't think I would. The reason being, in Norway, the word lightning apparently has different connotations that it doesn't have in England. The number of people who ask us, does it involve electricity? Do you have to sit outside in a storm? Which is a reasonable question, but it doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just a name. What would I name it now if I started again? Don't know. But that's what it's called, the lightning process. Well, it's actually technically the Phil Parker lightning process, but it's mainly referred to as the LP, which wasn't an abbreviation that I came up with. It was one that patients started using.
So I think realistically, it makes it memorable. A lot of people remember it if they've heard about it.
Yeah.
So, on a bonus.
And that is what it's called. And I don't yet have a time machine, although I'm working on that. So it's the lightning process. So hope you found that really useful. We've covered a whole bunch of stuff. I'm sure there's more questions. We've got some written down, but it'd be really cool if you can, wherever you're watching this, it's Facebook or YouTube, put it down beneath any questions. We'll try and add them to the next one. If you're listening to the podcast, send us an email, info@philparker.org. Any questions you have, and we will endeavour to answer them in our normal engaging style. So thanks Helen for joining us, and you guys have a great week. Speak to you soon. Bye.